What's up, ladies and gentlemen? How are you all doing today? I have another fantastic interview here with BJ, the big bad bear Jew. Okay.
What's up?
How are you doing?
Sure, I'm doing good.
Listen, let's talk how I found you. I actually seen your videos, I think a year or two ago.
Which one was first?
The first one was probably the testosterone, which we're going to talk about for in a minute. And then I went and saw the one in reference to the alt-right and the Jews in Israel. And then I went and watched all of your videos. And then I was like, okay, so he hasn't uploaded in a while. You know, maybe he's on a world tour or a vacation. let me just check and see. And then I basically came back and nothing happened, and this and that. I came back and nothing happened. I was like, well, damn, what happened? So I was like, okay, well, I'll just occasionally come back. So anyway, somebody posted your video. I can't remember one of your videos. It was one of them in my Discord. And I was like, oh, yeah, I remember him. Let me go and see if he's done anything recently. And no, I think, it was the Gavin McGinnis one. That one. It was that video. They uploaded that, went to the Discord. And then I think on your most recent video, and I was like, hey, and I swear I didn't expect you to respond because it looked like you abandoned your channel. And I said, hey, why aren't you creating any videos? And it went on from there. What did you say to me?
I'm not sure what I said back, but I was excited you were talking to me because I would watch your videos. So I was like, oh, definitely I'll do an interview, whatever you want. Let's go and do it.
Why did you leave?
My story is kind of boring, to be honest with you. I made a bunch of videos, and making a video like the ones I made, you kind of have to, plan it out a little bit, do some research of what you want to bring up. The testosterone video had all these facts. I think I put footnotes to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
And I was working as a lawyer at the time doing corporate law, working many, many hours. And after a while, I was like, man, I love talking about these things, but I hate making videos. that's the real thing. So I made a bunch of videos, and I was like, you know what I really want to do? I want to talk about these things, but I don't want to plan a script,
right?
Edit and do all that stuff. And so for that boring reason, I kind of stopped. I didn't really stop on purpose. I was like, because I had ideas for other videos, and then it just kind of stopped for me. But I was gaining traction. And
you were, because it's like I was like, okay, I'm gonna come back if I see it, because I was gonna subscribe if I saw a new video, and I didn't. I was like, well, maybe he took a hiatus, or you went on. I thought you went on a world tour, or you went, had to go on basically on something like dealing with some vacation or something.
Yeah,
that's the reason why I didn't immediately subscribe. I was thinking, that's probably why he hasn't done a video lately.
Yeah, I mean, what happened was, I was having all that in the backgrounds of okay, well, I don't really like necessarily making videos, but I love talking about these things. Let's see if I can do some podcasts. I think I did 2 with some people I'd never heard of who would ask me to. And I was like, wow, I really like these discussions, right? And at the same time, I was going to transition out of practicing corporate law, which I was working 60 to 80 hours per week. And I was looking at my different avenues. Yeah, I know, right? I was looking at different avenues, and I was like, okay, well, I should probably put a little pause on videos just in case, it's not good to be talking about the Jewish question, especially in the fields of law. it might offend some people. Although I think my take on it was a good take. I mean,
it was a very good take, actually. Yeah.
I try not to be biased. I don't think I am biased to some Jewish. I mean, if anything, I'm pretty pro-Israel, but I was about to say anti-Jew. Let me rephrase that. I'm disappointed in a lot of Jews. I'll say it that way.
I can relate. I'm disappointed in my people too. So it's like, yeah, I totally get it.
So so I ended up going elsewhere in my career, and I had more time, but I never went back to making videos. But I never said to myself I'm going to stop. I still have all these ideas, videos I was going to do. But I took a little, we'll say it's a hiatus. Maybe I'll come back and do some eventually.
But you're very well liked on Instagram.
So, posting memes. Occasional shirtless selfie people but put a shirtless selfie with the Trump hat on. You know, people were digging that. And then
Yeah,
post
I
funny
was
memes
like,
too.
okay, well, this is where he has found a new home because you have been more embraced on Instagram.
Yeah,
Because I thought that was another reason. Because like when we added each other on Instagram, because I don't like Instagram.
yeah,
I'm the kind of person. This is just me though. I'm one of these very outliers who's just don't cater to a lot of stuff on social media.
yeah.
I can walk away from it like that. But I when we looked at it, when I looked at your Instagram, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, I see why he's more popular on Instagram than
Well,
are you on Facebook too, or is it just
so when it comes to Instagram, right? Like what I do on Instagram, well, if I see a meme I like, I'll repost it.
okay?
It takes about 10 seconds of my effort, you know? And
Right.
so it's a little different than making YouTube videos. And so it's kind of like an outlet that way because here are my opinions represented through funny memes or other images, right? When it comes to Facebook, my Facebook is a personal account. And I used to post political things all the time. And oh man, seeing the debates go on my Facebook, you just drop something controversial and let everyone fight each other. It's beautiful. But like getting into it myself, like not that I care, but like I've probably lost like 300 Facebook friends, and they're all from like the same demographic. It's all from like the white, educated, liberal, mostly women, and those are the ones who are just like, you know, when Trump got elected, my status was like, hey, pretty much he's not that bad. Heinz, like, there's some things I disagree with about him and some things that I like. But people were acting like it's the end of the world. That's kind of crazy. And then I got like, well, that's because you're not a POC or Muslim or woman. It's
Oh
like
God! Oh my
the
God!
whole entire list of like, you know, of words they use. And it's like the rest of us are crying right now. It's like, oh my God. Okay. Oof, sorry.
Wait a minute. So that they, as a white female liberal, supposed to be able to relate to people of color?
Yes, that's what they claim to do. Listen, I went
They
to
believe that, though. You do know that. They believe that. They actually believe that they are marginalized.
well, I mean, like you see, like a wealthy white woman, she might feel like she could be the representative of everyone else who's marginalized.
Yep.
Even though, like,
The white savior complex.
the one girl I'm thinking in particular, like her parents are both lawyers, never probably faced a struggle in her life when it comes to like actual real worlds, like how am I going to pay rent, that sort of thing.
Right.
I went to like an all black high school, and like I kind of interacted with a lot of black people then. Then I went to law school, and I saw how like not only the black people, the white people like kind of treated race. It was such a strange thing that it didn't make sense to me. Like for example, if I was making an argument, if I said something like, I remember one time when I first got there, I was like, oh, well, people in public schools, which I went to, most people do, people in public schools, like the kids, a lot of times they don't care necessarily about learning. They're just trying to get through it. Very innocuous comment. But then everyone starts yelling and screaming at me. And I realized when I say public schools, it's these white, wealthy liberals, they
Go
think,
to private schools.
no, they think black people. That's what you say public schools, they go, oh, black people?
Well, that's racist, isn't it?
It is. It's so, but like new to the whole entire scene, you know, that crowd, I was like, why is what I said kind of like, and like I didn't get it, was they interpreted in a racial way, me saying public schools. And so it took a while for me to get into that. I went to Northwestern Law School, and like the more elite you get, the more crazy they get.
Yeah.
And so like it was such a disconnect because I never understood where they're coming from at first. And that experience made me a lot more conservative. Like being around liberals made me way more conservative.
Yeah, you know what? I have to share that also with you is that I was always, you know, conservative right wing. Actually, I consider myself more right wing. And I recently rejoined Twitter back in October, and I am the craziness, because Twitter is more liberal. It's not only liberal, but they're pro-communist, which is retarded, okay? And they are basically, they see nothing wrong with being a communist. And then they are very blatant about how they want America destroyed, and the things that they say, and like these people compared welfare mothers to military veterans who have actually fought in the war, and saying that the that the stipends and the monetary the money that the veterans are given for serving in the war are equal to welfare. And I was like, and hold on. And then they said something to me. They started to judge me, and they said, Tree of Logic hates pedophiles. Can you believe that? And I was like, and it just moved me further to the right because I said, these people are crazy. Yes, I hate pedophiles. I actually, I can't say what I really would like to be done to pedophiles because of TOS, but I'm not ashamed of that. And to sit up here and try to shame me for that it's ridiculous. But they too have moved me more, like they put cement boots on my fucking foot in the pool of right wing. You know what I'm saying?
Well, Twitter is to an effect a hive mind, which a hive mind is probably more akin to collective thinking. Yeah. And so they kind of just group up and like, let's adopt the same ideas, and anyone that wants to go against these ideas, you push them out. And that includes, and when the ideas get more and more narrow about what's acceptable, then you're pushing out their own kind. Eventually, hopefully, we all right-wingers want this, they destroy themselves. We'll see if it ends up happening, but like, there's some good indications that, that the left-wing movement, the very left-wing movement, is kind of collapsing on itself.
Yeah, they are. They're really going crazy.
Could be wishful thinking, though.
No. I see them actually. We have some problems on the right. Don't get me wrong. Well, before I assume, what are your political leanings? Where do you line politically?
I mean, I don't want to give that lame answer of like, I don't like to label myself in a term.
Yeah, I hear that a lot.
But I mean, like I would say, I'd probably say something is conservative or right wing. The thing is, like, I see the populist conservative side, which I feel like I've been drifting more towards the past couple of years. But I used to be more on the libertarian conservative side. Okay. And so I kind of see both sides of the argument, and I'm not very I understand when you're talking about certain things, and like, let's say your criticism of like the Brexit movement. Right. There's always this fight between principle and practicality. Yeah. So you're more on the principle side of things. Yes. And the Brexit movement is more like, they probably in their heads know, like, okay, well, it's not good to like characterize itself as the Black movement and try to get more Blacks into our group, because we shouldn't be identifying based on racial categories. But it's extremely practical to do so for Republicans as a political party. And so there's always that fight between principle and practicality. And it kind of depends where you fall. I mean, I probably fall somewhere in the middle of the argument.
Okay. Yeah. Well, Brexit is just a sham. It's just a fraud. It's just a money grab as far as I'm concerned. You know what I'm saying? It's just, I will say this. The Blacks for Trump, it's a new movement now that they have. They tend to have learned from the mistakes of Brexit, and they're heading in the right direction. They are going into the Black communities. They are listening to Black people instead of talking at Black people. They're talking to Black people. But I still stand by my comment or my statement saying that it's a waste of time, because at this moment in time, the Black community as a whole, or even as a half, they're not going to come to the Republican Party. I do believe the Black community is still, and they have every right to be bitter for the Republican Party abandoning them after Eisenhower. So and there's a lot of healing that has to be done there before you start coming up and talking about unemployment for Blacks, which did not only help Blacks, it helped everybody. You know what I'm saying? They see through the ruse.
Well, saying that the Republican Party abandoned them, I would more push is probably the wrong word. But as Democrats really realizing, we have this new base we can exploit. Because up until from the Civil War to the 1930s, Black income in proportion to white income was getting more and more narrow. And then after that point, when New Deal policies started coming in, Democrats went, okay, well, we could appeal to Black people saying, okay, well, we'll give you free this, free this, free this. And then eventually the tides turned, and then Democrats went, okay, this is our core base now. And so I feel like Republicans have always, or at least in theory, have always said, okay, we'll be the ones that are fighting, you know, not based on skin color, on it's just more egalitarian. And then Democrats went from being anti-black, so I wouldn't call them pro-black now, but I would say
no, they're not pro-black,
to fake advocating for blacks or advocating for policies that end up hurting blacks.
Well, the reason why I say they abandoned them was because during the Great Depression, blacks needed help more than anybody. Okay, they were definitely the Democrats, especially Eleanor Roosevelt and some others. It's such a long list. Were understanding that blacks were being excluded from certain soup kitchens, the soup lines, the bread lines, I think you call it. I don't know what you call them, but and they were also not being they were being turned down for a lot of the social opportunities. And then all of a sudden, the Democrats came to the rescue. The Republicans just didn't. Now, I don't. Here's my thing in reference to handouts, and I would love to know your opinion on this as well. Your opinion about handouts. My thing is this: when everybody has that moment when they're down and out, and they just need a little bit of boost. Okay, but the thing about it is that you don't keep them dependent upon that boost. You let them know, hey, you need to eat. So how about this? We'll give you some food, all right? You need a job to buy more food, because when we stop giving you the monies to buy food, at least you can buy it for yourself. So we're going to provide you the jobs, all right? And we'll also either send you to a trade school or to college. I'll say trade school because college is not what it used to be, but I'll say trade school. So therefore you have a skill. All right. And if you want to go to college, if you have if you meet the academic achievements, standards, then we'll give you a scholarship, and then therefore you'll be able to make it yourself. So they're teaching them how to fish. Republicans didn't have that opportunity for blacks during that time. So that's my thing, is that they didn't even offer if I totally get the whole pull yourself by your bootstraps, but during that time, everybody was suffering, but especially blacks, because they weren't allowed to partake in a lot of those things. And that's when the Democrats came in and like, you know what? Here, free this, free that, free this, free this, free this. But they kept them that way for many years.
And grew a culture of dependency. And the culture of dependency, I think the more important implication of that is not necessarily that we had blacks depending on certain aid, is that if you have, let's say a black mother gives birth to a child, and if she's getting, I mean, we've heard this all a million times, but if she's getting aid from the government, she has less incentive to go after the father. The father is less incentive to feel like I need to take care of my baby. And the single motherhood rate right now is like 80% amongst blacks.
Right.
It's pretty high amongst whites as well. I think it's like 30 or something like that. But when it comes to handouts, like, I mean, I think most people would agree, yes, we should help people who, let's say, disability or lost their jobs or something temporarily. But you see the problems happening in California now is that, okay, well, here's free shit, and we're not going to really put conditions on it. We're going to give you free needles. Like, we don't want you to hurt yourself. Just and keep on enjoying and using it. And that is not compassionate. Yeah, they might think it's compassionate, but it's not compassionate at all, because it's going to hurt people in the long run. And so I don't know if I would necessarily advocate. Well, I think that saying that just for trade schools in general, giving scholarships to poor people in general, I would be for. When it comes to university, I think that there needs to be a major reform, such as.
Oh my God, yes.
I majored in anthropology. I have a million stories about that, but I was like, I think so. I went to University of Florida, and the Florida governor, when I was in college, when I was a senior, was like, yeah, we should do with programs like anthropology or something like that, right? And then everyone was so mad at him, and I was like, yes, I'm living this. It's complete bullshit. You can't get a job in it. I was swindled. And so I don't want to get too much into that. But yeah, I mean, university has its own problems. But trade schools giving scholarships to poor people, for sure.
What did you want to do when you were in high school?
My story when it comes to that sort of thing is interesting because I had chronic sleep apnea, which I didn't really know about until
Why?
21, 22, because I probably my June nose and I couldn't breathe very well. I think it's probably part of it. I've had tonsils removed twice, adenoids removed twice, a turbinate coblation where they fucking get in there, and I was awake for that surgery. A bunch of different procedures. But after my last procedure, which was when I think I was 21, I woke up the next day and I was like a new person. I was like, whoa. And like, I realized that before that time I had like a brain fog. And this is my senior year of college. So I was like, oh, fuck, I've been slacking off past 20 years. What do I do now? And so then I went to law school. Thankfully, I had that awakening. It wasn't even awakening. It was a medical thing that helped me because when you have sleep apnea, and a lot more people have it than people that probably know about, but you're in a brain fog all day. And I was lazy. I just played Call of Duty and drink. That's all I did in college. And so, but then right after that surgery, I literally went from like 0 to 100 right after that point. Like bam.
How do you get your tonsils removed twice?
Tonsils grow back.
They do.
And adenoids grow back, which is like a flap all the way back here.
I did not know that.
Now you know.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, but I had those adenoids and tonsils when I was like a little kid, and then by the time I was 21, I guess they had grown back. And but the thing is, this is like when those symptoms are coming back, how do you really know it's there? How do you know you're slowly falling into a brain fog? Sometimes I think now, like, should I go get sleep studies done? Like, how do I know if I'm, if I still have that sort of thing? You don't really know.
Yeah. Okay, so in high school, in the 12th grade, you had an awakening?
No, sorry, that was when I was 21, senior year of college.
Oh, you was finished with high school.
Yes, I had slacked off. High school was it was a
blur.
No, it wasn't a blur. It was just fucking like very easy. Like I was in like the honors classes, which were like kind of BS classes that everyone thought so. But like, I remember I took one regular class, and it went to a really bad school where like people would just throw shit at the teacher. The teacher would be like, "Okay, listen, on Monday, by Friday, I want you to memorize these 5 words." Literally, that's the type of assignments we had. I took a regular environmental science class. I was like, "Okay, I have to look up this term." Interesting.
Was your school? I'm sorry for interrupting you because now it's in my head. Now, if I don't say it now, I'll forget. Your school was majority Black?
It was, I think, like 40-something%. And then this is in South Florida. And so then it was almost, I would say it was a little more Black than anything else, but it was almost 1/3 Black, 1/3 Hispanic, 1/3 white. But probably like 40, 30, 20 or 30, 30, 40, 30, 30, maybe something like that. Yeah.
30 is for 40, white is concerned. 40 Black, 30
Black,
Hispanic.
30 Hispanic, 30 white. No Asians. I think there was like 1 or 2.
Okay. I was wondering. I was like, if you went to all Black school, I was like, yeah, how was that experience? I was gonna.
Well, a school that's 40% Black, the white kids tend to hang out like away from them. It's kind of like it's self-segregation that goes on.
Yeah.
And, I was on the basketball team because I'm 6'6".
Yeah.
And I was the only person that wasn't Black on the team, and so but that was an important experience in my life because I grew up middle class, but I remember one time we were on the way to a game and someone brought up, a Black kid brought up how like he had never met his father before. And then I was like, wow. And I was like stunned, like, oh my God, how could that be possible? Because I knew people who were like divorced, but I never experienced that. And the one other people were saying similar things, like their mom's not with their dad, that another dad. And it was such a culture shock to me.
Right.
And a lot of people don't realize.
Right.
So I'm glad I had those experiences for sure.
What was the nickname they gave you?
Oh man, I don't think I had a nickname.
They never gave you a nickname?
No. No. It is funny though. I think because of my size, I don't think they want to offend me. So when people used to refer to me, they wouldn't say the white kid; they'd say the light skinned kid. I was like, I'm not really light skinned. That's not really accurate. Like, oh, Adam, he's the light skinned one. Okay.
So they looked at you like a brother. Okay.
I wouldn't go that far, but I didn't get it. After all, I didn't get a nickname. So
you was never called white boy.
Never. But my teammates, no. Not that I remember. No. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Again, I was.
Florida is so no. here's the thing. I realized that every region of America is so different because in the North, I was born and raised in D.C. and then at the age of 11, moved to Maryland. And that's when I began, I think, when we moved out of Capitol Heights and moved to Largo, it was a middle class an area with white people. And I wasn't used to that. But the school I attended,
where?
huh?
Largo, what state?
Largo, Maryland. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. It's Largo,
Yeah.
Florida too. But.
Yeah, it is a Largo, Florida. That's true. Yeah. And so even though blacks were not the majority and definitely not even half, we ruled that high school, you know what I'm saying? And and actually we had one white girl on our team and everything, and she earned her dues though. Let me tell you, we just gave her hell. I think it was just the hazing was part of the initiation to see if you were going to be cool with the rest of us, and that's how it was. But like I said, everybody has different experience because that's how it was in the North.
Yes, South Florida is its own region. Like I always tell people, like North Florida is like the South, but South Florida is not like the South. South Florida is something else entirely. And I've lived there, and it's kind of hard to describe. Yeah, I'm not moving back there ever.
Why are people so crazy in Florida?
I mean, honestly, I think a lot of that is like Central and North Florida, where I'm not really. I went to school in Gainesville, Florida, but that's like a college town. Like when you hear about people wrestling gators and things like that, or having pet this. Like I lived like in South Florida, like it's a big metropolis, and so I never experienced like that. I mean, there was the guy in Miami who took bath salts and ate someone's face. I don't know if you
heard about that.
I mean, actually, after I left, and there was a big like flocka epidemic there, which I'm not still sure what flocka is, but it's some drug that's apparently makes you go crazy.
Yeah,
so, I don't know. Yeah, but I mean, I lived in Chicago for 6 years, so I went to college in Florida, then I got out of there. But I'll go back eventually to around Largo, Florida. Actually, is probably where I'm moving to.
Oh, okay.
That's why I was like, oh, Largo, okay.
Cool. Let me ask you, now let's talk about something that I found fascinating on your channel was the testosterone video. It was one of those videos I watched twice, maybe more than that, because I wanted to also look at the footnotes that you have. And you obviously coming from a gym background. I'm so disappointed in myself. One thing I hate about being a YouTuber is that it took me out of the gym, and I'm not active in it like I used to be. But I'm making those changes now. Now that I have absolutely destroyed the credibility of Candace's force or Blex is concerned, I'm gonna make this one last video, and then I'm just gonna walk away from the channel completely, unless the Republicans do something stupid or she does something stupid, saying that I gotta go, I told you so, look at what they did, and I just go there and clown. Other than that, I sticks to this channel here and my other channel. But the thing about it is that I really missed the gym. And when I looked at your video where you were talking about most men in the gym are conservatives, and then you begin to describe the difference between a male's point of view who has testosterone versus a male who has less testosterone. I don't want to mess it up. I'd rather you do it better justice. Can you explain? I hope I'm not putting you on the spot. The difference between the two males when it comes to liberals and conservatives, and the level of testosterone, and how does that factor into that?
Was it? I mean, it's been a while since I made the video.
That's why I said that was so bad of me to do that.
Was I talking about kind of the individualistic aspects of people who have more testosterone, or?
Yeah, because I saw the video. I hate when people do that to me. I shouldn't have done that to you. So let me just say, okay. So what you was talking about, where men are more with the testosterone, they are more assertive. They are go-getters. They care
Yeah.
about their appearance, whereas the liberal men, and this is so freaking true, they don't care about their appearance. They don't care about their health. They basically are more passive. They're not as assertive.
Mhm.
They're not the go-getters and everything like that. They tend to blend in well with women and be a more softer, less intimidating
Yeah.
version of men. Whereas men, and like, that's the reason why you find that most men in the gym, which is so freaking true for here in Georgia, the every gym I owned, excuse me, every gym I have been a member of, the owner has been a conservative or a straight out right winger.
Yeah.
And the guys, like I noticed that when Trump in 2016, I was still active in the gym, and I remember when he won, a lot of the guys in the hole, and we call it a hole where you lift your free weights, would wear their mega hats, and then the women were the only ones losing their shit. You know what I'm saying? So it's like with the liberal women and the liberal men, it's like they're kind of like,
Yeah.
I can't tell the difference between, you know.
So here's the thing. So testosterone makes you more of a risk taker, and having less testosterone makes you play it safe more. And you see that, I mean, again, gender distinctions, unfortunately, are breaking down a little bit because we have men who are acting more like women and vice versa.
Yeah.
And we can get into the causes later, which is kind of hard to identify. But if you're going to be taking more risks when it comes socially, then you're going to be saying more what's on your mind. And so that's one big difference with men with testosterone will speak their minds, while liberal men, or I should say men with less testosterone, which is, there's not a perfect correlation there, but they tend to play it safe. And I think even convince themselves, like, it's a lot easier to play it safe when you convince yourself of something and to say, oh, well, I don't want to take the offensive position. I want to take a position that would be more agreeable.
Yeah, very agreeable.
I think that the higher testosterone is the more of a contrarian you tend to be. And again, this isn't necessarily a perfect correlation. You're an example of someone who's a big contrarian as well, where if you disagree with someone, you want to let them know. And you want to tell them, you know. But a lot of people aren't like that. They're more agreeable. And it's like, well, okay, well, what's the expression? Get along to get along.
Yeah, what is that? Give along to get along, something like that. I know what you're talking about.
I forget the expression, but that's how. I mean, I know a lot of Republicans like that. Let's take my parents who were lifelong Democrats and voted for Trump. If you're someone that they just met and you're talking about Trump and you say something bad, they're going to be like, oh, okay, because they don't want to start any problems, that sort of thing. And that's why a lot of Republicans have kind of went underground with it. Because, yeah, there is a correlation.
I hate that they're underground with it.
Unfortunately. Well, the more I speak up, the more that you could release people from, keeping their opinions underground.
Right.
Lost my train of thought.
I'm sorry. We were talking about in reference to the correlation.
Yeah, so we're going a bit of a tangent, which I tend to do sometimes. But the thing is, like, testosterone is going to make you take more risks, and so it's going to affect your personality, and it's an effect, like, when it comes to there's studies done on this is white men is a sample that white men with bigger, higher amounts of upper body strength tend to be more conservative than liberals are, and so upper body strength is probably a good corollary to testosterone. And so, what does that say? That if you have more testosterone, you have more power, you want to be conservative. Well, it's if you feel like you're weak and you can't compete, then collectivism sounds great to you. If you're a strong risk taker, then individualism is saying, oh, well, I can do this on my own and I can succeed above other people. That competitive aspect, then you're going to end up going down that path. And so, I doubt there's. When it comes to people who call themselves communists, I doubt there's any that have higher levels of testosterone. Because
no, they don't.
Because
they don't.
It just goes against like your thought process in that aspect.
What about I've always felt angry, and I always had to do a self-reflection on this when I encounter men online, or let's use for Twitch, for example, where there was a round table and there was this one liberal and he was just basically being very disrespectful. Whenever the other conservatives was asking him questions, he would throw another question and dodge the question and move the goalposts, and they wouldn't call him out on it. And they was so nice to this person. And it's the type of round table where you can just, anybody can show up. Okay. They don't even, you can just, as long as you show your webcam, you can show up. I was so angry with how the men were, playing with this little liberal who was just having a field day, triggering them. And so I came into the call and I instantly cussed him out. I put him in his check. That I was so vulgar about it that I started talking about. I don't want to say without. Let me just say. I talked about how I would use a certain device and, turn him into my female, saying blah, blah, blah. And he immediately quieted down. And then I went to the conservatives and I said, how are y'all letting him get away with it? I felt so angry about me as a woman. I did some self-reflection there and I said, did I overstep my bounds by, going in there and handling something because I felt that these men were not doing their jobs, or should I just let them work it out themselves? It's something I wrestle with, because a part of me felt bad because a woman had to go in there and spank a liberal because 5 other male conservatives did not do their jobs that I felt that was adequate to shut him up. And I had to come in there and not only shut him up, but eventually 20 minutes later, he left in defeat. So, I don't know. I know that's out of my character, but what do you do in situations like that? These are the questions I'm asking myself. And I just wanted to get your opinion on it.
At a round table like that, I don't know why they don't have the incentive, especially if it's like through webcam and stuff, to speak their mind and to put someone in their place instead of letting that guy walk all over them. I mean, I understand other contexts, like when I was in law school having discussions, crazy discussions that don't bear any, I took a class that was like, it was a bullshit class. It was like pornography and free speech and sexuality bullshit. Okay. And so this girl, it was pretty much me arguing against the class, taking kind of a conservative position on things. And then I was talking about how just like something innocuous, like men take advantage of women and they're looking for sex, so women have to protect themselves. It's like, something simple. And then this girl's like, oh, well, I know plenty of girls that lie to men in order to have sex. And I was like, what? And she's like, yeah, but all my friends, like, they'll lie to men because otherwise the men don't want to have sex with them. Right?
How do they lie?
Listen, I asked like 10 times, and the thing is, like, no one in this plus 30s is going to speak up besides me. But I'm talking to her, and I'm trying to say, like, listen, that doesn't comport to this. Like, that's why you have to change your speech. I can't shut her down when my professors are over here. I have to say that doesn't comport to my view of reality, that women are out there lying to men in order to get them into bed. Like, I can't imagine scenarios which would happen. And that's how you have to talk. You can't be like, listen, you have no grasp of reality and you're stupid. This is what you want to say. You have to modulate it, right? So in that aspect, you're in a situation where you have to speak a certain way. But online interaction, the great part about it is that you don't have to do that.
Yeah, this was on Twitch, so we could say, they're way more stricter on Twitch than anything. But other than that, everything I said was TOS friendly. But the thing about it is that I sat there and watched him do this for an hour. It's like I gave them a chance to shut him down, and he was really, how somebody feel good about themselves, they stick their chest out and they're like, they start
get more confident.
And I was like, do something. I was yelling at the monitor, do something, say something, don't let him get away with that. And it was like, let me show him how it's done. But the reason I have a problem with this is because I still think of like a traditional person. Like, men should be the more aggressive one. They should be the dominant one. And I felt like, why the hell was I that person? I'm the female.
Yeah. So here's the thing. So we can talk about testosterone having an effect on your personality, that sort of thing. But the problem is that men's testosterone has been going down drastically. Oh. And so the studies on this, I mean, there was one that looks at men between and this is like looking at men of the same age, right? You have to keep that constant. Between like, I think 1980 and 2004, 2000, it's like 20, 24 years or something. And testosterone had decreased in average for 20%. I saw another study that was talking about 100 years that testosterone increased by 50%. So like you'll hear this in the media, but they won't talk about testosterone. They'll talk about sperm quality because obviously that's important because of fertility issues, and a lot of them have fertility issues. But no one's talking about the testosterone aspect and what it's doing to our brain. But you have men running around with half as much testosterone as they did 100 years ago. Do you think society is going to change? Yes, it's going to change. I can't tell you exactly how and what ways, but testosterone is the male hormone. And if you're making men less men, then what's going to happen? So there's been huge decreases.
Wow, I could tell you what's going to happen, because for some reason you're going to have certain type of geographical groups that are not experiencing in certain type of rapid testosterone drops that are going to basically take over. I'm speaking in code, as you know.
I understand the code. Yeah, I mean, I think that's what's probably happening in Sweden right now.
Yes.
And people are so afraid to say anything. I talked to some Swedish friends that I had when I visited Stockholm before I met some people. And they're just like, yeah, well, we can't really talk about it. And if you say certain things, then people are looking at you weird. And the thing is, if you say certain things, people might agree with you. And they'll still tell you off, you know? Because especially a place like Sweden, the Nordic countries, are a lot less individualistic than Americans are. Mm-hmm. And they tend to want to conform more. I mean, this is the same as places like Japan, where the culture is to conform and not to speak your own mind. So if people have an opinion, you don't want to ruffle feathers as much. And so if your group opinion is an opinion that goes to the destruction of your country, that's a little unfortunate, isn't it?
Yeah, I think also it will affect the birth rate, which is affecting it now. When you have women, okay, I know I probably need to do some research on this, because if testosterone is decreasing in men over years, I wonder, is testosterone increasing in women over the years?
So I haven't seen any research on that, but here's the thing about that. Like when it comes to testosterone, there's different types of testosterone.
Yes.
There's like, how does estrogen affect us? How's SBHG or SHBG, whatever it's called, affect things? It's really,
and progesterone, right?
Yeah, it's really hard to say.
Yeah.
And so like when it comes to men and women, you don't even really look at the absolute values of testosterone, because if a woman has her testosterone increased a little bit, she doesn't have as much androgen receptors. And so she's gonna be kind of overflooded. So if you give, like when they do the transitions, we could talk about this, from female to male, you get the testimonials. Have you heard these testimonials?
No, I haven't.
Of how they start to feel. There was a famous one on NPR where the girls take testosterone to bring her up to an average male's level. But the thing is, a woman's body isn't meant to handle a male's level of testosterone. And so she is feeling testosterone of really, really elevated. And she was talking about how, like, the way she viewed women, how all she kept thinking about was sex. And then when she was talking to other women, she was treating them in a way that was kind of just like, well, on a date, it's like, how can I get her back home with me? And like, just focusing on that. And it's like feeling like a really testosterone guy. Yeah. And she was talking about how it makes her more aggressive and competitive. And like, we know what testosterone does.
Yeah.
Like, testosterone's been around, well, I mean, in synthetic form since the 1930s. And so we've been studying it a while now. And I think a lot of people have said, oh, well, testosterone's a bad thing because it makes you more aggressive. Being aggressive to a certain extent is a great thing.
Yeah,
it's just
absolutely.
after a certain extent, it turns to be a bad thing. And if we get our testosterone levels back to where we were 100 years ago, I don't think it'll be a bad thing.
I mean, what's wrong with being here's my thing, aggressive. I as a woman, I don't like passive men. Never have, never will, as far as mates is concerned. So
most women don't.
Yeah, and therefore if let's say for instance I'm having a bad day and someone wants to get to know me and I just reject them and they go, okay, with their tail tucked between their legs and they're hunched over in defeat, obviously I'm going to totally lose respect for that person. Yeah. But if that person like, you know what, you look like you're having a bad day. Here's the thing, saying I can either just walk out of your life and you'll be missing out on a good man and they'll tell me all these good things like that, or or you could tell me how I can make your day better. But either way, I just know I'm not taking this personally. Oh my God, I'm so impressed. You know what I'm saying? That's a person who did not give up. That's aggressive. Now, people probably don't think that's aggressive, but that is a form of aggression where that person is not taking no, and it's not violating me in the process. And I think people have a misunderstanding on aggressiveness.
Yeah. So I think that one of a woman's prime concerns is to feel secure.
Yeah.
And if you're with a man who is not supporting you emotionally, this doesn't necessarily mean, emotional in a way like female friends would. Mm-hmm. But if you come with a problem, if you get a man that's like, oh, that is a problem, and like wallows in pity with you.
Oh.
It's like that is the worst thing. Like if you get a man who likes to complain, like, and they gossip with you, that's not to support your you have positive feelings after.
Right.
And so you need a man who's going to be able to say, hey, well, those feelings that you have, look at it this way, and like try to change that, because women seek emotional support from men and security and stability.
Yes.
And I think men generally don't do it as much from women, but if you have a man with less testosterone, I feel as if the roles might be parallel. Mm-hmm. If you have a man with low testosterone who needs his own validation, then that's a relationship. If he needs his own validation and security, and you want your security, then where's it coming from?
Hold on. Let me just ask you this in reference to this, and then we'll go to one more subject. When it comes to validation for men, I don't see how that's so hard to do, because you guys, for example, this is so fucking easy, okay? Mm. In the gym, let's use the gym again, okay? Let's say, for instance, I haven't been there in a couple of weeks, and there was a couple of guys I was like very friendly with, not trying to go over that line, but I'm just very friendly with, okay? And all of a sudden, I'm like, hey, and I'll just touch on their chest. Oh, somebody's been working on the bench press lately or everything, or touch their arms, or basically give them a compliment about their physical appearance, okay? They're probably the same as if I left. That boosts their head up big time. Or when I say, you know what, the last time I saw you do some curls, it looked like you were struggling. Now you look like you're doing it with ease. I mean, it makes their freaking day. Or here's my favorite. I love to do this with guys who are not in the gym. I did this with a police officer. I walked by him and I did smell. He smelled good. So I walked by and I said, and I walked by him. I was like, he's wearing cologne. So I turned around and I walked up to him. I said, I'm sorry, why are you wearing cologne? I'm not being disrespectful. Why are you trying to smell good and look sexy at the same time?
Yeah. Hey, you're identifying things that will validate a man, but most women don't do that. And you know what? If you're a pretty 18-year-old girl and you're on social media, there are 100 people messaging you to give you compliments and to slide into DMs. And it's just the proportion of the other sex who would give you that validation.
Yeah.
Most men aren't walking around, being compliments anyway. Yeah, it's easy to do from a female perspective, but also because it's so rare, men are going to interpret it as flirting.
You don't get any compliments on Instagram?
Oh, on Instagram, I do.
Oh, okay. I was about to say.
I'm just trying to say that the average guy doesn't.
Yeah. The average guy. I think I would love to get women together to just show them, like, you ladies don't have to be alone. It's no offense, but men are easy. I mean, they're not complex to where you have to take a course in them. Women, we're different and we're not so easy, especially with the hormonal thing going on.
I wish I can give a dating course to women because I've dated so many women who have no idea what men are looking for and will say very strange things. Like, if, for example, if you're on a date with the girl and she starts talking about like an ex hookup, well, wow, what the fuck do I want to hear about that during a date, right? But if a man talks about that, it's a turnoff, but it's not to the same extent. I mean, it definitely is a turnoff. So don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's not, but for women, men crave modesty coming out of women. I'm talking about sexual modesty. That is,
yeah.
right. And so if you're a cocky guy, when it comes to like your, if you're flirting and you kind of act like a player, it's not as much of a turn off to women as the other way around. If a woman acts like she sleeps around a lot, then every guy's be turned off by that. And my views are kind of biased because I was in downtown Chicago. Actually, I lived right where those two MAGA guys did that awful thing to Jussie Smollett.
Oh, yeah. Oh, poor Juicy.
So it's such a shame that happened to him. But I look like that was my subway.
Okay.
Seeing all the liberal women there who have no idea how to talk to guys. It's like guys are very easy.
Yeah.
Just, hey, what do you do? Don't sleep
very easy.
Don't sleep on the first date. Don't do it. If you expect you to think, oh, this is someone who's long term, then install that a little bit. I'm saying things that I think most people will know.
Yeah. But they don't put it to practice though.
Exactly. Like if you ask a girl, she might say, oh, that's the right thing to do, but won't necessarily put it into practice. And again, I'm talking about really urban girls.
Yeah.
Girls who live in cities, especially the professional class.
Yeah.
Act a certain way. You're right, but men are easy in that aspect.
Yeah, they are. I think a lot of women do not have to be lonely if they don't want to, if they just go out. And like I said, I don't know, maybe you should do a class because I know I talk about it all the time. I just don't never just basically do a class on it. But I don't know, what do you think? They would probably listen to you versus listening to me.
Yeah, I think there are classes of guys, but I don't think I saw like a YouTube ad or something for it once. But it's hard for a man to give very honest advice to a big group of women on that subject because you're going to end up offending a lot of people and saying
them.
They're the ones that are taking the class who are going to be interested in it.
And that's why they're alone. Okay.
I mean, if I told the girl, hey, you want a guy right now? Here's what you do. You stop sleeping around. That's the first thing. Act like you never have. Also, you have to act like. I mean, this is both sexes. Act like you're the prize. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Act like you're a prize. Don't act like you're easy to get with. For men, it would be, don't hit her up multiple texts in a row. Act like you have no one else to talk to. And for women, it would be don't act like you're easy to sleep with, really. So that's like one of the bigger things.
Yeah. That is awesome. I could talk to you about that for hours. But I want to save the best for last. Okay.
The best.
How has your experience been after your video in reference to the Jewish question?
Yeah, so I was pretty excited to put out that video because my perspective on it I hadn't really heard before, which was just like, hey, any claims of there being this big Jewish cabal, big Jewish conspiracy, I think it's pretty ludicrous. Not to say that there's not powerful people out there who help each other's interests, but I would put Jewish influence more on personality traits of Jews that tend to be different to other people. Why are Jews more liberal? Well, it's not because they're necessarily pushing an agenda. Part of the reason why is because they come from, upper middle class, upper class backgrounds, and white people who come from those backgrounds tend to be very liberal. If you're privileged, a lot of that thing comes from personality traits. Women tend to be more liberal than men, and Jews are kind of set up in a more matriarchal system in a sense, and that usually women have more control over the marriage than I think in other marriages. And so if you have this kind of feminine, neurotic, privileged class, they tend to be more liberal and push policies that we all don't like. Listen, I like, so we'll get to the what happened after that video in terms of the reaction.
Yeah.
But I totally get some of their perspective, because sometimes I'll be watching, like, well, I don't watch CNN, MSNBC, but I see a clip up front, that gets into a better channel. Not to say I don't watch liberal channels, I do, just not those two. And then, like, I hear some fucking crazy, stupid liberal explanation, like, oh, we need to let everyone into our country because of compassion and blah, blah, blah. I look at the last name and I go, oh, God. And then I sound like I'm a fucking white supremacist. I'm like, oh, of course. And if anyone was with me, like, who didn't know me, they're like, oh, okay, wow. Like, oh, of course. It says Cohen. What do you know? What do you know? It's like, because I understand, because they see it and I see it as well, and I don't like seeing that.
Right. Like what's going on? Like that's happened recently. Because I am pro-Israel, and there are some things that I realize that individual Jews do that pisses me off. Like Mark Bloomberg, I did a story on how he has been funding rhinos to vote for gun control laws. Okay, so it's like he's like a little watered down version of Soros. So it's like, okay, but also there are some other white liberals in general who do just as bad. Here's why I can't say I could never be on, oh, these are the people who are at fault. I'm like, nah, you all are at fault, okay? Because if you look at the racial demographics as far as the political voting is concerned, it's half and half. It's nearly half and half. Half of whites vote Republican, the other half vote Democrats. And then I think the only race is my race, which is the overwhelming majority vote Democrat. Okay,
there's another one, that's Jews. I think Jews vote in even a higher proportion than blacks do. Or close.
No, so, they're in the 70s. We're in the 90s. Yeah, I think it's 70.
I would challenge you. We'll have after the go fact check. I bet Jews are at least in the 80s.
No,
I know that blacks are like around 90%.
Yeah. We're at 90%. Last time, now I'm up to be wrong. Last time I checked, it was 73, 75%. But I'm open to be wrong. It could have been.
We could check that afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I'll put the results in the comments section and everything like that.
So people know.
So anyway, so you were saying, so like once you after you had that perspective, you made a video, very good video, by the way. So what was the response, or what happened after that?
So like, I'm sure there's ways to check with like data analytics of like where your video is being posted, but it was obviously being posted in areas which that were like more in like the white nationalist crowd.
Yeah.
And so like, I don't even have to read the comments, but like just seeing the name that would post, it would be like, the shifty Jew. And
yeah.
Like, Shlomo Greenberg-Steinowitz. And I'm like, okay, this is probably not a real person, but I'm listening. And it's actually funny. I don't see most of the comments in the video because YouTube like pre-blocks things, right?
Yeah.
So YouTube will block if you put certain words. I'm assuming in my videos is kike is the word they don't like to hear.
Right.
And so like I saw a comment like he's blocking comments. I'm like, I am, and I click on like the whatever tab.
No, YouTube does that. I think they know now. Back when you put that video up, they did not know, but they know now that's what's going on.
Yeah, the only time I'd probably ever block a comment, which I've never have, is if someone doxed me.
Right.
Figure that one out. But yeah, so here's the thing. So that happened, and then so I was reading McDonald's, Michael McDonald's book.
The cultural critique.
Cultural critique, yeah. So I was reading a lot of that, and I did find some things interesting. I disagreed with the line, and I was like, I never thought it was perspective. So I don't disagree with the overall point of the book, but I still like reading things I disagree with.
Yeah.
And so I'm middle reading that, and I'm getting all these things, and then I got someone posted a video of me, but just cut out the parts that like cut the parts that they wanted for their video. Like, Jews are doing this, Jews are doing this, Jews are doing this. And I was like, wow, that makes me look pretty bad.
Yeah.
The negative things.
Selective editing.
Yeah. And so it kind of turned me off a bit because I was like, hey, I would love to have this discussion. Because I see their point in a lot of ways, but I feel like a lot of people on that side just aren't very rational. And like, you have like the David Duke types who like, what he does is like, gives you examples of Jews. Like, this Jew did this, this Jew did this, this Jew did this. It's like, okay, I know that Jews do bad things, but where is the global conspiracy of Jews to overthrow white people?
But see, you can apply that to every race. This white did this. This Asian did this. This black did this.
Yeah. I mean, in my videos, I was like, here's some Jews that were very liberal. Here's some Jews that were Republicans or, conservative, right? And so, like, people be like, well, yeah, Stephen Miller's good, but the rest of those, blah, 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 blah. It's like, okay, well, you can't really go by that basis. Again, I'm willing to concede that maybe Jews have a certain character attribute that makes them more likely to be liberal. I think it's probably the case. But when it comes to global cabal or conspiracy, I think it's pretty ridiculous. And I feel like there's a certain segment of blacks that tend to blame whites for everything. And amongst that crowd, everything comes back to Jews.
Yeah.
And that's I think their main hatred, because there's like,
well, blacks don't. Here's the thing, and white people tend to not understand this. Blacks look at everybody. They don't look at Jews and whites separately. You're all white to black people. White people don't seem to understand it, especially the white nationalists. Like, you can sit up here and say the Jews, but they're still white to black people. And to sit up here, they're going to say, well, these are more the privileged whites, but black people are never going to separate the two. You're all white as far as blacks are concerned.
So I'll agree for most of the country. Chicago is a little different, and I think
because of Farrakhan is up there.
Yes. So like, I have a Jewish star tattoo on me, and when I got the tattoo, my parents like, oh, the neo-Nazis are going to get you, right? I've only met one guy with the swastika in person, and he told me he likes my tattoos. I met him at a gas station. I was like,
oh,
yeah, I was like, this is all right.
Wow.
He patted me up, and he had a big swastika on his neck, and he was on this side of me, so he saw my Jewish star. And anyways, but in Chicago, I've had Muslims and blacks come up to me and be like, "You're not a real Jew," because of yeah. In my gun arch video in Chicago, which was really a great video, because I didn't prompt it out of the people there, but like all the black people on the South Side weren't like, we need to ban guns. They're just like, we need to improve our families and our communities. I was like, oh, that sounds very conservative. In that video, I had a group of ladies I was interviewing, and they saw my star and they just went off on me. And I was like, so unprepared. I was like, okay, well, I want to talk to you about guns. And well, you're not a real Jew, just to let you know. And I was like, oh,
so basically, I'm sure you understand that Black Hebrew Israelites are really big in the East Side of America, right? Have you ever ran into them?
Never. Oh, I heard they're in Chicago. I've never seen them in person. But like, I feel like that sort of crowd. It's like, what am I going to do? I'm going to go. There's like 10 of them. I'm going to like start arguing, and they're going to start screaming at me. It's like, it's a stupid thing to try to, But maybe it would make
for good content.
It would. It would make for good content. I mean, like, I don't understand. I don't understand why that crowd wants to be Jews so badly. Most Jews don't want to be Jews.
That's a very good question. I don't know the answer to that either.
Well, they want to be like the original.
The true and original. Yeah,
like the chosen people. But like I don't know. I don't want to get too far into that, but this just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mostly agree with what you're saying. It's just it's in certain areas.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what though, that video will go viral, because I think the last time a video with the Black Hebrew Israelites and the Jewish guy went viral is because the Jewish guy cried.
Oh,
he made him cry,
think I heard of that. Well, what was he crying about? Because he was like,
Because they said because they glorified Hitler and said that the Holocaust was a good thing.
yeah.
And he was so offended, and he started crying. And the more he cried, the more they kept doing it. It was like they were feeding off of his misery.
If you're gonna cry, walk away.
Yeah, like exactly. Walk away. Don't stand up there and cry. Like, how could you say that? And just like tears just flowing down his face, and they just kept going even more. It was very vicious with it, but it was still funny.
I doubt there's been any time in history where people have been talking politics or something political, and one person started crying, and they came back to win the debate.
True. Get
out of here. I mean, well, kudos to you if you can tighten up. Like, all right, now I got back at you, but I kind of doubt it. But I saw the one where I don't know if it was a Jew, but like guys like kissing their feet and stuff.
Okay, that's on my channel. I have that on my channel. Okay. No, he's just a liberal. I was like, I posted. I actually, that's not my original video. That video came from Twitter, and the actual count of that Twitter user is permabanned because, and I remember, and I asked him, I said, you don't mind if I take this video since your account is permanent? He's like, please, if you got more of my videos, because he never backed up any of his videos. So I took that video and actually was like, I was like, see, this is what the beta liberals boys want to really do. They really want to kiss the feet of Black Hebrew Israelites and everything like that. And I was just making a point like, this is why you don't want to go full liberal, you know what I'm saying? Because then you'll be on your knees kissing black men's feet, happily kissing it. There was no shame in his game. He was just walking on his knees, and you saw the video. So it was like.
I think a lot of things in men could be explained. This is get kind of weird and controversial, but let's go here. It could be explained by sexuality. So before I get to that, let me just say that like a lot of people believe that men who want to transition to women, and I believe this, is because I think it's called like auto sort of sexuality, where you're attracted to the idea of yourself as a woman. Because you see a lot of men transition to women, they don't become women, they become caricatures of women, like gigantic bimbos and all that. And I always saw that and go, that's not like I feel like a woman. It's like you like the fact that you're like that. So when it comes to like the submission aspects of it, cuckoldry is a growing fetish. Which I
don't know why, but go ahead.
I imagine it's more amongst liberals than amongst Republicans.
Absolutely, it's amongst liberals.
I don't have data on it, but I think it's pretty safe to say.
Yeah,
but it's because like they get off on feeling ashamed of themselves, which is kind of what all liberals do.
Yeah,
all liberals kind of like the fact that I'm evil. Yes, I'm doing that. I'm the oppressor. When it comes to white people in that aspect, I've met cuckolds in real life. Again, I was in Chicago.
Yeah.
And so I know it's a real thing. It's not just like some small thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not some small internet thing. If I was propositioned to engage in one of those by a cuckold and his wife, then I know that this thing exists in real life. And what does it say about our society that, first of all, I don't know how as a woman you could like the fact that your man wants you to get fucked with another guy.
But they're liberal women. They're liberal women because here's the thing. These women have these men in their lives to get the home, to get the financial security, okay? But they're missing the I don't want to say aggressiveness. They're missing the alpha in the bedroom, or they're missing that man's man in the bedroom, okay? They don't want to be like, honey, do you want me to do this? Or do you want me to do that? They want a man to take charge in the bedroom, okay?
Yeah.
And so when you have that, you don't have that as a woman in a man. Therefore, you look upon somebody like yourself or any other man who displays that energy, and it excites them. Absolutely. I totally know about all of this stuff, right? So yeah.
From the female perspective, that makes sense because just like, well, I'm dating a friend who has a penis.
Yes.
So I can enjoy sometimes, but it's not really my thing. It's
right.
it's kind of like girls who might go, be a college lesbian, experiment. It's kind of
Yeah.
like, well, I want to kind of have sex with this thing next to me, but it's really just like a friend.
Right,
I
right.
really just have that outside influence. So I think it's more explainable, but what it means for a male to be into that, I still can't fully wrap my head around it, of getting off on your own shame. And like, I think that
guilt, I think it's just guilt. I believe it's guilt, because I find that a lot of liberal men love when I cuss them out. They get off on it. You know what I'm saying? They really do. They really love it. They actually, on Twitch and on YouTube, I find that they come to my channel just because they're like, oh, Tria Logic cussed me out. She called me a failed abortion. Yes. It's like.
So they want to be emasculated.
Yes.
And they like that.
Yeah.
Interesting. No, I could definitely see that. I'm just afraid that I think that when it comes to people's sexual interests, a lot of times people think that sort of topic is maybe scandalous and salacious, like, oh, well, that's just their own sex lives. I think it probably has a bigger bearing on our everyday lives, the things that people are interested in that they don't talk about. Like when it comes to like female fetishization of like rape and things like that, there's always going to be some sort of aspects for women who want a dominant man.
Yeah.
But if it explodes a certain degree, you have to think that, well, maybe women don't see this at all in their everyday life of having an aggressive man. And the idea of a really aggressive man really turns them on because they don't see that ever.
Right.
So it might
so
say
true.
Those sexual like proclivities might say a lot about society, and no one really talks about that. And then there's a bunch of sexual stuff that I have no explanation for. So, but it has to say something. A better mind than me can theorize on other issues.
Yeah, yeah. Gee, see, I knew I can have a good conversation with you. I didn't even prep for this. I was like, okay, let me just go by what the videos I've seen, this, that, and the other. And I was like, I knew you was going to be a very interesting person to talk to and have wonderful conversations. I definitely would like to do this with you again in the future and everything. Now, tell people where they can find you at. And I'll have all of this. I'm going to need you to email me all of your social media that you want to be public.
It's really easy. I believe that there's, I don't know if I'm seeing this or everyone's seeing this, the big bad bear at the bottom of your screen.
Yeah, they see it. Yeah, they see it.
Yeah,
right there.
So, same name on Instagram and on YouTube. Those are the only two places I'm at. I would never be on Twitter because of the reasons we talked about.
I'm not on Twitter either. Don't feel bad. I'm not. I was perma-banned for calling David Duke a racist grandpa, and that perma-banned because of ageism.
Oh man, I was like, okay, yes.
Yeah.
Grandpa. What if he is a grandpa? Oh,
he is a racist ass grandpa. That's the thing. He has, his children have children, so I'm not off on it. But the fact that that left such a bad taste in my mouth that once they did that to me, I was like, I'm done with you, Twitter. I'm not coming back. Because a lot of people come back after they get perma-banned. I was like, nah, I'm better than this. I'm not bringing Tree of Logic back. Because people are like, come back as Tree of Logic TV or Tree of Logic Veto or what. I'm like, fuck Twitter. So
yeah, hopefully another platform comes along, but it's probably it's not going to happen because of these companies are natural monopolies. And once they get a foothold and there's a big user base, you're not going to switch away from it. All these different things that are alternatives to YouTube, unfortunately. Yeah. Like if everyone's on one platform, it's just stay that way.
Right. If BitChute, I'm gonna tell you, if BitChute can finally get their streaming service, it's gonna take a lot of money. I don't know if they're gonna be able to be successful in that, but if they can get their streaming service, they will be a force to be reckoned with. But people don't stay on BitChute. That's the reason, because it's there to watch videos and that's that. But their comment section is dependent upon disgust. That's a bad platform to have. You should be able to have a comment section just like YouTube, or don't have one at all if you're going to have disgust. And also have a streaming service. Nobody fucks with Gab. I left Gab 2 years ago and I never looked back.
I have an account I never posted on.
Yeah. I don't log on to Gab. It's like for the reasons why. Yeah. And it's like no thank you. And Minds.com, I'm very active on Minds. You may want to check them out. They have very good traffic there. The only thing about me not being as active on Minds is because I have so much to do. I'm only one person, and even though you can schedule your posts beforehand, I'm so used to scheduling everything a week ahead of time that I'll tend to forget, and then next thing you know, I'm ghost on it. But so you're saying like Instagram and YouTube is where you're known to.
On there.
Are you ever, just a thought, are you ever interested in getting your own site, or is that just too extra for you?
I think I have a site actually. I think a friend of mine was like, "Oh, dude, your YouTube channel's go blow. Let's get you a site." And I was like, "I don't really want my own site." So I think if you type my name in, it might be a website there still. But I'm not. When am I doing that? It's again. I'm like the reason why I started making videos. I was like, you know what? The more people who speak out about these things aren't afraid to talk, the better it is for society. But because of the fact that I've worked in law and will continue to work in law, I always have that risk. So I would feel dumb putting a lot of effort into that and then losing a job or not getting, reputation and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. All right. Well, I will have all of your information below both of our pictures here. And I will also have your links that are clickable underneath the video.
Hey.
Do you have any parting words that you have for the audience and those who are watching us right now?
Yes. Think and speak your mind. The more people who do it, the better it is for society, like I just said. We're going to need a push culturally. And even if you don't feel like you're making an impact, just talking to one person about your beliefs will make that person go, you know what, now I can speak up in a group context. And people won't be afraid anymore to speak their mind. And the more people speak their mind, the better it is for us. So go ahead and do that.
Awesome, BJ. I like that as much. I like that very much. All right, guys. So this was a wonderful conversation. Yep. Please check out BJ at his YouTube page, YouTube channel, and his Instagram. Okay, you're gonna love the Instagram though. But you gotta earn his Instagram. Okay, all right. So that's that. So anyway, I'll have his information posted in below, and I look forward to having you in the future. Take care, everybody. Bye.